Will you finally admit that it's cold outside?
I mean, it's cold. It doesn't bother me. I don't mind it.
Yeah, no, but the other day it was cold, and you wouldn't admit that it was cold.
Well, I guess by a dictionary definition, I'm not walking around thinking, "Oh, I'm cold."
Okay.
I don't know. It's just the weather. You'll never ever hear me complain about the weather, no matter how hot it is. I don't want to be one of those. Oh, it's summer. It's so hot. Oh, it's winter. It's so cold. It's just the weather. It happens. People need to deal with it.
Welcome to another sunny Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan.
Complain about the weather. It's the weather. Not like if there's a tsunami, like, but short of that, yeah, I just don't like complaining about the weather. What can you can't do anything about it. You can start the podcast now.
All right.
Actually, it was pretty driving over. It was snowing. Some nice little flurries. Nice morning. You probably hate the snow. Ooh, it's snowing.
Yeah,
I have to shovel my driveway.
I don't care for it. Was that me, by the way?
That was.
No, I don't. Yeah, I feel like you can only complain in one extreme or the other. So,
right.
Like in the summer, you'll never hear me complain about the heat because I feel like you can't have it both ways.
So who makes these rules that you can only complain about one? Because like a lot of people complain about both.
Yeah,
extremes.
no, it's a personal rule.
Okay.
That I abide by. So, like, I won't complain in the summer about the heat because I use it all up in the winter.
So you're allowed to complain about the cold because you don't complain about the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to remind you that next time we're at training camp and it's like 103.
You won't catch me complaining about the heat.
Okay.
And I'm at training camp, so I'm excited.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Yeah, all right. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. Reuben, Frank, Dave Zangaro. Big week, Cowboys week. Every week's a big week for this team. They're in this murderer's row right now. We talked so much like big picture in that last game, but it's kind of a fun thing that the guy that just turned the page and play the Cowboys right away.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's an incredible rivalry. They just played their 100th game, I think, last year. I don't know if the Eagles are the Cowboys' biggest rival, but I think historically it was Washington, but Washington's just never been good.
I think they are now.
Yeah, I think
and there was also a period where I felt like the Giants had kind of taken over the Cowboys for the Eagles.
Interesting.
For a little while.
Yeah. But this is really the first extended period where both teams are good in a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And that kind of, like, it's not really a rivalry if one team's no good year after year. Like, in the 80s, I mean, the Eagles dominated. They won every game. And then in the 90s, Cowboys won every game. But now they're both good. And look, the Eagles haven't swept Dallas, as we know, since 2011. They have an opportunity to go down there and do it. They've lost 5 straight in North Texas. We'll see. Tough
place to play.
It is.
It's funny because, every time the Eagles and Cowboys play, players get questioned about the rivalry. And like, this is the biggest rivalry you've ever been a part of. And it's like, guys who played at Alabama are like, yeah, we don't like Auburn very much. Like, that's kind of a big deal. It's like, I played at Michigan, so those Ohio State guys, we don't, it's a little different.
You ask, like, Kevin Byard about the rally. He just got here. I really think it's bigger for the fans. I mean, because players could be playing for Dallas next year.
And that's Slay's point about rivalries. He's like, I don't know where I'll be playing next year.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true. But I will say that, like, once you're in the stadium, the fans care so much, it's hard not for players to, like, feed off of that energy.
I agree with that. And that's definitely true. But, like I don't think, Eli Ricks is going home saying, oh, Dallas sucks. Like, it's just, and I don't think you can afford to do that as a player. And that's one of Nick's big things. Like, if we get really fired up for Dallas, what does that mean about our other games? We weren't fired up enough. And I think there's something to that. You can't go into it, being extra hyped up. You just got to prepare like it's, prepare for the opponent. And I just don't think that getting super fired up thing works, but fans can sure do it, and they will.
I got one more weather question for you.
Yeah.
Were you cold standing outside of the NovaCare complex yesterday with that sign?
No.
Okay.
Oh, I get it. With that sign. I'm not a huge they have to run the ball more guy. What I am is I'm kind of confused and surprised why they haven't run it better when they have run it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And the reason I wrote those stories is because the head coach and the offensive coordinator talked about it. But I'm not like you have to run the ball 30 times guy. I mean, it's a passing league now. But I do think there's some value in being able to run the ball for 4 yards a game.
It was just a joke. I wasn't really coming at you there.
Okay.
I did think it was cool. They actually really did send coffee out to those guys.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Nick didn't deliver it himself. But
they ran it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Handoff. Yeah. I do remember it's not the first run the ball sign. It's fun that we had, this is a city where it's not that uncommon for fans to stand outside the practice facility with a sign. Yeah.
Yeah, and the message gets through. I mean, everybody has to come out that same exit.
One way in, one way out.
Media, players, owner, GM. So if you have a message you want to get through to Howie or Jeff Lurie or Nick or Jalen.
And you don't feel like spending $2 on a cup of coffee.
That's right.
You'll get a free cup. You just got to make a sign and stand out in the cold for a while.
Can you get a cup of coffee for $2 anymore?
I don't know.
I don't drink coffee, so.
Yeah, some places.
Really?
Yeah. Did you never drink coffee?
I never did. I love the smell of it.
I get that.
But I just just a iced tea guy.
Okay. Warm tea? No?
Occasionally, but usually iced tea.
Gotcha. We heard from Shaq Leondard.
Yeah.
On Wednesday. Our first chance talking to him. I mean, they were putting the nameplate above his locker as we were all standing there. What'd you make of his comments?
Interesting. He was asked about, do you want to prove to the Colts you can still play? He said, I want to prove to myself I can still play.
That raised my eyebrow a little bit.
It did. That was the thing that jumped out at me. Like, he's being realistic. I mean, he didn't make any plays for the Colts this year, and the guy was one of the biggest playmakers at any position defensively from 18 to 21 for a 4-year period. So to hear him say that, it raises some eyebrows. And but he's also being honest. Look, if he said I'm still the player I was those 4 years, he'd be lying. I mean, he doesn't know that. Maybe he'll end up that way, but I kind of doubt it. So he's being realistic. He's being honest. But it did certainly get my attention. And we'll see. He definitely has something to prove to a lot of people.
Yeah, and he'll get that chance. I think he'll play this Sunday. No reason to hold him back if he's healthy, and he just has to learn a bit of the playbook. They can still rotate. We saw them, when Nakobe Dean came back, they were rotating 3 linebackers, so that's not out of the realm of possibility.
How do you think they'll do that? You think?
The rotation?
Yeah.
Well, it also depends on Zach Cunningham's health because he's coming back from the hamstring injury. They kind of expect, my sense is they kind of expect to have him.
He was limited Wednesday, right?
He was limited on Wednesday.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I tend to think he'll be back.
I do too.
And if he's not, you'd have, Nicholas Morrow at the mic and I almost said Darius, Shaq Leonard at the wheel. But they can mix and match a little bit.
That's 2 Dariuses who don't go by Darius.
Yeah, it's my favorite storyline of this team.
Interesting.
2 guys on the team named Darius. Neither of them want to be called it.
Yeah. My real first name's Darius. Actually, Reuben's my middle name.
Darius Reuben Frank.
Yeah. They're spelled differently, but yeah. Yeah, I'm really curious to see how much he'll play. I mean, he hasn't played, I guess, since week 9, week 10.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that long.
That shouldn't be a problem. He was with Nick, so he knows the offense.
That was the other thing that stood out to me so much. It's very clear that he's here because of Nick Sirianni.
Yeah. He was.
Which tells you a lot about Nick.
Yeah.
He was the offensive coordinator and a young offensive coordinator with the Colts. So the fact that he forged a relationship that's this strong with a player on the opposing side.
I think you say he forged a signature. I wasn't sure where you were going with that. But no, that is impressive. And, Nick talks so much about connecting. And I'm not going to say we laugh at it, but we kind of roll our eyes here. Here goes Nick again about connecting. But it has a very, very real application in if he hadn't connected with a linebacker when he was an offensive coach, Shaq Leonard's probably not here.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot of value in it. There's value for the guys that are here. There's value, if one day he's coaching somewhere else and he's connected with, a young defensive back here, Mekhi Garner, and he becomes a really good player, and he signs him. I mean, that kind of stuff happens. And relationships, the longer you're around this league, the more you see how much, like when coaches get hired, they're hiring the guys they coached with. When players when coach, they bring in players they are familiar with and they have a relationship. That's huge.
Yeah.
And
sometimes it goes into the negative because you put those relationships over.
Well, that was the Rich
merit.
Kotite thing. He, as somebody wrote, he brought in more old jets. He had more old jets than Newark Airport or something. But
that's a good line.
You have to, you have to be careful when you do that. You can't just bring in your friends. But I'm really curious to see. I don't think he'll play every snap, but I think he'll play a lot of snaps.
I think he'll play a lot.
Yeah,
and I'm really curious to see what he has.
Same. Yeah. Yeah, and it's asking a lot. I mean, he's going up against a good defense, and it's his first game here. He's just learning the defense, and going up against a good offense. I'm sorry. And the
team he turned down.
Yeah, so there's a lot of angles. It's going to be fun. And there's so many new pieces on his defense. It's kind of crazy. When you look at Reuben and Byard and Leonard. I mean, these are all guys. I mean, even Zach Cunningham wasn't here when training camp, so he wasn't here for OTAs. And
it's something I asked Sean Desai about, because it's not just that they brought in these new pieces, but they brought in these pieces at positions where communication is so vital. You're talking like safety, nickel, and linebacker. Like, those guys need to know where everyone is on the field. And I think it's even Sean Desai admitted, there's concern that these guys aren't going to get on the same page. And that's why you work so hard to try to get there.
And I think we saw a little of that Sunday.
And I think we've seen it throughout the year at times.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. And there's a reason teams have training camp and have OTAs, and these guys weren't part of those things. So they're trying to do a lot of catching up in not a lot of time.
Yeah.
And the more guys you have in these new positions, the harder it is.
So the real news here is that when they slid that nameplate into the locker, Derek Barnett's old locker, by the way, number 50 for Shaq Leonard. But later in the day, the Eagles waived Christian Ellis. So assuming he clears waivers, he'll be back on the practice squad. But the news there is that Christian Ellis wore number 53, which was Shaq Leonard's number in Indy. What do you think here?
Well, I don't personally care about jersey numbers, as you know, but
is that right?
Yeah. I would think he would get 53. I guess when you're on the practice squad, you don't have any real say in what jersey number you're getting. I'm not sure Christian Ellis really cares about 53. He might have just been assigned it when he got here. Has he always worn that all 3 years?
I believe so.
Yeah. So I would expect Shaq Leonard to be wearing 53 Sunday.
Yeah. Look good, feel good, play good.
I guess it matters to some people.
It does. My favorite was when Alshon Jeffrey got here, and he tried to say he didn't care about the number 17, because at that point Nelson Aguilar was wearing it, and Alshon's, I don't care about that number. It's just a number. And then he gets the number from Nelly. Nelly goes to 13, and the next time we see Alshon, he had a giant chain with a big 17 pendant hanging around his neck that probably costs more than I make in a year. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, you didn't care about that number, huh?
Yeah. You actually talked to Alshon? I don't know if I ever actually had a conversation with him.
No? Well, I mean, it was like on record. We were. Did
you ever just go up to his locker and chat with him? I never did. Never talked to him.
I attempted. I didn't get very far. Yeah.
Okay. I once tried to you remember Michael Carter, the great 49ers interior lineman?
Sure.
Michael Carter finished his career with the Eagles in training camp. He actually I don't think he ever played in a game. He was here in training camp. Well, he's the high school shot put record holder. And I made the attempt to go over to his locker and talk to him about it. I was like, when you threw 68, 10 and a quarter, I mean, did you know, as soon as you released it, that it was a bomb, that you'd broken it might have been 70 feet. It was probably 70 feet. Did you know you'd broken the record? It was a huge throw. And you ever heard it? Like a grown man grunt? Just,
That's all it was?
It was like, yeah.
You were probably so dejected.
I was pretty upset. Yeah. I was pretty upset.
You were looking forward to it? Little track talk.
Yeah. So, that was my attempt to talk to, yeah.
I don't know if I should tell this. I once had Alshon shoo me away.
Really?
Yeah.
He shooed you away?
Yeah. I said, Alshon, do you have a minute? He was on his phone. I liked Alshon. He didn't like talking to reporters very much, which whatever. I get it. But he looked up from his phone, didn't say a word, and just went with his hand.
Just shooed you away.
Yeah. I was like, all right, I'll try again tomorrow.
Is that a no?
I think that's a no.
Has there been a player who doesn't really like doing interviews, but you really enjoy talking to him? Like
sure.
BSing?
Oh, BSing or just like interviewing?
No, just non-interview. Like he doesn't do interviews.
Oh, but he's better just like chatting. Is that what you mean? Oh, a bunch. Yeah.
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 Anybody in particular come to mind? Like
right now, Landon.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, but he does. I mean, he doesn't enjoy it, but he'll do interviews.
But they're not good.
No, they're not.
I mean, he bottles up pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, Deuce was like that for me. Like Deuce would go a year without doing interviews, but we would chat every day at his locker. And as soon as I'd be like, hey, can I just do an interview? No.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I'd probably be the same way.
Yeah,
I hate
think,
the media.
It's a joke. That's all we have for Shaq Leonard, right? Curious to see how he plays. It's a big question mark.
What's your guess percentage of snaps?
I think quite a bit. I'd go 70%.
I'm thinking mid-70s. I was going a little higher, like 73 to 75.
Okay. Yeah. So we're around the same range.
And part of it's how many snaps they play, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he'll start. We'll see.
Interesting. Yeah, they might show some deference to the guys who have been here.
Maybe not.
But that doesn't starting the game doesn't really matter as much.
Right.
All right. Dallas Goedert looks like he's going to be back on Sunday. He was a full participant. Well, he was listed as a full participant on Wednesday. The Eagles had a walkthrough, but they have to release an injury report anyway. He said he's very likely going to play in this game. He's talking like he's going to be back. It's going to be a big boost.
Did you ask Jordan Mailata?
I did. And aside from just the fun quote, I asked Jordan, like, how much they've missed him. And Jordan said, like, have we missed him? Hell bleeping, yeah. Has it been, I'm paraphrasing here, has it been noticeable? Like, hell bleeping, yeah. But he also, like, got into it a little bit, just the versatility of Dallas Goedert and how much it means to the offense because it makes them more unpredictable.
Yeah. Now, this thing about Dallas, you're not just losing a really good receiver. And he had really started he had that slow start, but he'd really started to become a factor, like looked like the old Dallas, like his last 4 or 5 games before he got hurt. But yeah, I mean, his hand is in everything they do offensively, running the ball, blocking, catching, just everything. And they don't have that with these other guys. They're not just not productive in the receiving game. They're, you lose that element of like, what's Goedert going to do here? You just don't know. So
yeah, it's like you see Jack Stoll out there. He caught a couple of balls.
Well,
he had that one big catch
14
for 14 yards, but for the most part, he's in there to block.
Yeah.
And then if you put Albert O out there, he's running the route. So it's like to have Goedert and we even saw it with Kittle in that last game when they leaked him out. He looks like a blocker. Oh, no, he's down the field on you. And that's what Goedert is.
Yep. And it's going to make a big difference.
I asked A.J. Brown about Goedert coming back. He flashed a big smile. He's looking forward to it because there hasn't been anyone who really stepped up into that third pass catcher role.
Yeah.
They've gotten some plays that, like, Quez caught a couple passes. OZ caught a couple. One was a big one. Julio has kind of been out there.
Swift earlier. Gainwell had 5 catches.
Yeah.
But there's nobody. Yeah, there's been, Albert O's a guy who caught some passes earlier in his career.
Didn't catch any here.
Did he get targeted?
He got targeted once. Couldn't catch it.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Like, Jalen Hurts trusts Dallas Goedert. You can watch it. Like, he doesn't look like he wants to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Now, some of this, like, we don't know. I know Nick Sirianni was asked about one play in particular where Jack Stoll was not a part of the progression. He looked open, and you're wondering, like, why isn't Jalen throwing it to him? Well, that's the reason.
That was interesting.
Yeah. But also, it doesn't look like Jalen's trying to get the football to these guys.
And I think sometimes when you see him looking indecisive in the pocket or holding the ball too long, I think that's it. Like, there's two guys out there he trusts to throw to.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do if they're both doubled, if they're both covered? So I think we won't. I think we'll see a more. I would think we'll see a more comfortable Jalen Sunday in Dallas.
The other thing I asked Goedert about was I don't know if you caught this, but they do like the mic'd up segments throughout the year, the Eagles Unscripted, and when he got hurt, like Avonte Maddox goes into the locker room to check on him, and they're talking, and they were like, no more stiff arms, because it feels like every time Goedert stiff arms someone, like something bad happens.
Yeah.
And I asked him about that because like, is this like, do you change the way you play because of fear? And he said, no, like I'll still stiff arm. I'll still try to finish plays. What I will do is try to get my arm out of there faster so they don't have something to grab onto. Yeah,
I think it's hard. It's hard for a guy who's as competitive and physical a player as Dallas to change because it's just so instinctive.
It's crazy. Two of his stiff arms this year, one he got fined for, and the other he got his arm broken.
Yeah.
And last year when he got hurt, when he got like pulled down by the face mask, he stiff armed on that, and I think because he stiff armed, like there was nothing to grab onto. He got like the defender got kind of pushed away, so he reached and grabbed his face mask.
Could be. It's a great play. It's fun. It looks awesome, but it's dangerous.
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of fluky this time.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But
I appreciated that he didn't blame the defender, because some people were calling it a dirty play from Marquise Bell. I don't think he was trying to injure Dallas Goedert. It's tough to bring down a big man moving that fast down the field. It was unfortunate that he wasn't able to let up on his arm.
Yeah, it was. That's a kid from Bridgeton, right?
Yeah.
State champion high jumper.
I should have known that's where that was going. Weird spelling of the name. It's Mark, Markquese. Marquise.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Florida A&M.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you know that if he didn't start as a track athlete?
Probably not.
Okay.
I think he was a 7-footer.
No, he's not that tall.
He's not really tall. He's not a super tall guy.
No.
I'm going to look up what his high jump PR was.
That's what people want.
I care, even if nobody else does.
Yeah, definitely best to do it now.
M-A-R-K. So you just spelled it, and I still can't spell it.
We're going to let this just keep going?
No, I'm waiting for you to say something.
Oh, well, we want to get in the matchups.
Let's do it.
Okay. Look, we know this Cowboys team pretty well. I feel like I don't have an audience right now.
I'm listening.
Okay.
He jumped 7 feet. Yeah, 7 feet at the Cape Atlantic Championships in 2016. Yeah, on his home track in Bridgeton.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm done.
Okay. I didn't know if there was more to that.
Jaden Britt of Oakcrest was
There's
second.
More to that.
No, I'm done.
All right. We just saw the Cowboys not that long ago.
Yeah.
We see them twice a year. We kind of know what that team is,
Yeah.
but they're playing really good football right now. If you're the Eagles on defense, where do you start offensively?
Where do you start with Dallas's offense?
Yeah.
I mean, CD.
That's where you start, right? And he crushed them in the last game, 11 catches for 191 yards. Now, the difference in this game is that Bradley Roby will be back. Roby missed those games with the shoulder injury, so in that game, they were kind of mixing and matching in the nickel spot. I'm very curious to see what Roby's able to do against him. And by the way, just let Roby be the nickel.
Yeah.
I understand you were trying to get Eli Ricks some snaps. I understand you like him. He's a good young player. Just get Roby out there.
Yeah, their trust in Eli Ricks, who might develop into a nice player. He's got some nice traits, but it's kind of surprising and confusing to me.
Yeah, I think it's like a little unnecessary to. I like that you coughed and then hit the cough button.
Did.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I mean,
he only played 5 snaps in that game, which was like shocking because you can remember instances where they're throwing at him.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree. I'd like to see.
Like, you got to win this game. You can't. Earlier in the season, I'm all for getting those guys some snaps, because you might need them at some point.
Right. But yeah, I'm with you. Just get Reuben on him and hope for the best.
Yeah, and in that game, it was also when Slay.
But CD he plays about half his snaps in the slot.
More, like 57%. And
it's not half. It's 57%. Sorry,
it's 7% more. That's significant.
Sorry, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, numbers don't matter, right?
It's just I said like 50%, like half his snaps.
Yeah.
That's 57. I think falls into that.
Okay.
I'd say anything from 41 to 59.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. 41 is the same as 59.
It's the same. I said they both fall into around half.
Okay. Curious to see how Roby handles that. I'm curious to see how the defense handles it, because we have seen at times Slay has started to move inside a little bit here and there. And I have been impressed by the way Desai is deployed. It hasn't worked necessarily, but it's tough to figure out exactly how they're going to deploy their corners when it comes to like facing a top receiver. In that Bills game specifically, I didn't know who in the heck was going in to follow Stephon Diggs into the slot sometimes.
Yeah, he does. Do you think he does that too much?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because you're saying you like to see Roby just...
Yeah, I mean, Roby over like other slot options. Like Slay's on the field already.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking about like replacing him with Eli Ricks or Sidney Brown. Like, I don't think you need that in this game. But if there are snaps where you want to slide Slay inside, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah.
But the interesting element of this offense now is that Brandon Cooks has started to heat up a little bit. They're using him more. You know, the first time they played the Cowboys, it was all on CeeDee Lamb. And then in that game...
And Ferguson.
Yeah, but that's kind of an outlier too. That's the best game
by far
of Jake Ferguson's career.
Yeah.
But they weren't really incorporating Brandon Cooks at that point. Now they are, so it makes it a little trickier.
Yeah, he had that huge game against the Giants, $173. And that's 72 yards against Washington for what that's worth. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to feel super good about Eagles secondary right now. And this is a big challenge. So we'll see.
Yeah. And I mentioned Jake Ferguson.
Every time you say it, I think you're saying Jay Ferguson. You know, Thunder Island.
Oh, okay.
Jay Ferguson.
I'm not. I'm saying Jake Ferguson.
I know, because I know who the Cowboys tight end, but it sounds like you're saying Jay Ferguson.
Okay. Curious to see how they handle him in this game. He had really a great game against the Eagles. He was a big problem in that game. They've been playing Byard against tight ends more. We've seen that. You know, they've obviously had to play some really good tight ends the last few weeks, especially Kelsey. Like, they were walking Byard down there. And then you bring Sidney Brown on the field as the safety. I think we'll see a lot more of that in this game, too.
Yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah. Okay. How about Eagles' defensive line against Cowboys' offensive line?
Yeah, this is a huge one for me because you can sack Dak. Seattle got him 5 times last week, but then the previous 3 games he didn't get sacked. Mm-hmm. Eagles got him 5 times in the first game, which was huge. He's playing at such a high level. I think, and you know, the Eagles have 4 sacks in their last 3 games. I think getting pressure on him is just going to be massive in this game.
It's a good line.
It is.
It's a very good line. Tyron Smith's playing well. Both guards are Pro Bowl caliber players. Terrence Steele on the right side is solid. Overall, it's a really solid line. They play well. I think the one matchup there is Reddick against Steele. I think that's where they have the opportunity to get after a little bit. And we saw Reddick start the game so hot last week. It'd be nice to see him.
Last 2 games.
Really? Yeah, you're right.
Sack, right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So,
or was it? Yeah.
Yeah. So curious to see if he can do that again.
Yeah. And you'd like to see Sweat. Look, Sweat's played some really good tackles, but 1 sack in his last 5 games. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's played bad. He's gotten some pressures.
And he had the
grounding.
Grounding.
Yeah. But I'd like to see him. I mean, because when those guys are both pressuring quarterback, that's when this line is really tough to stop.
Mm-hmm. You get your Fletcher Cox versus Zach Martin matchup again. Always fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Their guards are really good.
Both really good. Yeah.
It's been interesting because, you know, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, I think they're both playing well. but they haven't been as impactful as they were earlier in the year, as far as big plays, sacks, forcing fumbles, and that kind of thing. So they've played a lot of snaps, but they actually had a full week for the first, like you played Monday, then you played overtime. So this is, they've had a full week. They didn't play excessive snaps on Sunday. So, you kind of hope they can be a little more active, I guess. That'll be big.
Yeah. Cowboys have an extra few days of rest, too. It's one of those schedule quirks that hurts the Eagles. They faced the 49ers coming off an extra 3 days, and now they face the Cowboys coming off an extra 3 days.
NFL hates the Eagles.
It's not that, but it's like it does kind of stink.
It does. It doesn't seem fair.
Yeah. Micah Parsons, if we're flipped to the other side, obviously just a monster player. One of the best defensive players, period, in the league. He had a sack and a half against them in the last matchup. I think we're going to see him against Jordan Mailata quite a bit in this game. And that's fun in a way because last week we saw Lane against Nick Bosa, and it was just unbelievable. He was so good against the reigning defensive player of the year. And it's Jordan Mailata's turn this week to try to shut down one of the best edge rushers. Yeah,
and I think Jordan was a little down on himself after the Niners game. I think he played bad. It's kind of hard to, because Jalen was holding the ball so long, so he did get pressure.
I thought their protection in general was pretty good.
So did I.
Yeah, really good even.
Yeah. The thing about Micah Parsons is, like, there's been games where, like, you don't even notice him, like, for 3 quarters, and then he's just, like, in the fourth quarter, he's just all over the place. It's almost like he's figuring out what's working, what can I do here? And then, man, when he picks his spots, I mean, he's impossible to block. He's a unique player. And it's kind of funny how when he came out, he was a linebacker. Like, he's an edge rusher. That's what he is.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be an all-pro linebacker if he played linebacker.
I think he'd be an all-pro.
I think he would be.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is definitely his strength is pressuring. He's scary. Got to account for him every snap. Because he doesn't just sack the quarterback. He's forcing fumbles and picking them up. And, it's Jalen. Jalen's got to be super aware of where he is and super secure with the ball when he's in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and they have some other good players on that line, too. Lawrence and, So let's move on to A.J. Brown versus Deron Bland. Maybe one of my favorite matchups in this game.
Yeah.
Because Bland had, no question, he's had a fantastic year.
5 pick sixes.
Oh, yeah, 8 picks, 5 pick sixes. Just unbelievable. But
the NFL record, he broke the record shared by Eric Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, I don't know. I forget who else. But, yeah, that's incredible. I mean, he's got more touchdowns than a lot of receivers, like starting receivers in the league. But like most cornerbacks who put up huge numbers, he's beatable.
Yeah, we saw that last week when they played the Seahawks in a really tight game. DK Metcalf beat him deep a few times, and I couldn't help but watch that game and think, AJ can do that. I mean, and Jalen trusts AJ with the deep ball. He'll throw him out there and give AJ a shot. So I wouldn't be shocked to see AJ beat him down the field in this game.
The thing about Bland is, like, he was having a bad game, and then he'll just have a pick six, and, like, all of a sudden, like, a bad game becomes a good game. Like, if you give up 120 yards and have a pick six, that's a good game for a corner. You've probably affected the game more than the guy you're covering. So, man, you have to be aware of him. And when he does get the ball in his hands, you better tackle him. Yeah. Because if you miss that first tackle, I mean, he's going to find his way to the end zone.
Who's the best tackler on the Eagles offense?
The best tackler on the Eagles offense? That's a great question.
There's one very clear answer here.
Who are you thinking?
You just got to think about it, mate.
Jordan?
Oh, yeah. He's great after interceptions.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, I'll keep an eye on him if Bland gets one. I was thinking somebody more like, like a like a running back or something, like a guy who can catch a D-back
fast enough.
Yeah, like Swift should be.
I mean, Devontae.
Yeah, but he's just so skinny.
Yeah,
I would just want him out of the way. Just go watch the play. You don't want him getting hurt trying to tackle somebody.
He's not getting hurt.
Okay. Too valuable. Anyway.
Did you see that Will Levis play?
Which one?
Threw a pick, charged after the guy because he got his arm hit, throws a pick, charges the guy who intercepted it and forced a fumble.
Really?
Recovered it? Yeah.
Levis recovered it?
Yeah.
Did he run? Did he score?
No, it was a first down, though.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's good hustle.
Yeah. I saw someone comment, it looked like, when you're playing basketball and you missed you're not a good shooter and you shoot a three and you're just charging to get the rebound. It kind of looked like that.
Okay. I think that the longer a return goes, a fumble return, a kick return, interception return, the more the guy with the ball is prone to turning it over himself. Because
AJ almost had a brilliant play earlier this year.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And I think that was purposeful. He waited for the guy to get up before trying to strip it.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
But, the longer a guy goes, they're not used to running that far. And, now they're thinking, I'm going to score, even if, so now they're probably gassed after 50, 60 yards. They might be still 10, 20 yards from the end zone. How many times do you see a guy fumble in that situation? Mm-hmm. Just, so maybe Jordan can, we'll see.
My last matchup here, DeAndre Swift against the Cowboys' run defense. Yeah, I mean, I think they do need to run the ball more effectively.
Why haven't they?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think part of it is the 49ers had a really good linebacker group and they're good up front.
But it hasn't been just a lot.
Yeah, you're right. It's. I don't know the answer. They haven't had Dallas Goedert. He's a weapon in the run game.
They've had 6 games at 3.5 or lower running the ball.
Yeah.
Out of 12. Yeah, I mean, I think those are all factors. Probably not having Cam for a while, not having Dallas for a while. Played some good defenses. They played a bunch of really good defenses lately. I don't know. I think Swift's really, above average runner. Gainwell had a 23-yard run 2 weeks ago and he's got 1 attempt since, which is weird. But it would look. I'm not a you have to run the ball 30 times guy, but when they do it, I mean, there is some value in mixing it up a little.
Yeah, and offensive linemen want to do that.
Yeah,
I think it means something to the morale of the team when they're able to run it effectively, because it's just imposing your will as an offense, and
it's complementary football because you're keeping off it. You're wearing them down.
Mm-hmm. And look, they had a good offensive game plan coming out of that game. They were moving the ball down the field through the air. They got in the red zone twice and then they stalled, but things were working, so I get it. But it would have been nice to help stop the bleeding a little bit by having a long drive after that.
I think the times it bothers me is when the offense isn't working and they throw 17 times in a row. Mm-hmm. That's when I think there's some value in mixing it up, becoming a little more unpredictable and harder to defend. And then when you're trying to run out the clock, and they haven't been able to do that this year.
Yeah, you're right. That was something they were so good at last year, was that 4-minute drill. Just everyone in the stadium knows you're going to run, and you can't stop us.
Yeah.
That means so much to the spirit of a team.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. So we shall see.
All right, let's take a break. We have some other stuff on the other side. We'll talk about Lane Johnson, Jalen Hurts, and we'll get some thoughts on this game against the Cowboys.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. Reuben, I just want to mention Lane Johnson is the Eagles' Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. A big honor.
Huge
certainly.
honor.
Yeah, and it was funny. I was watching the Eagles release the video of when they told Lane, and it was in the offensive line room. If you haven't seen it, go check that video out after you're done listening to the pod. But they're going through I think they're about to install some protections, and then it pops up on the screen with Lane as his Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, and Kelsey gives an emotional speech. But my favorite part is Jeff Stoutland in 100% Jeff Stoutland mode going, Lane, this is a big effing deal. Like just yelling at him. This is a big deal. And I can picture Lane go, yeah, I know it's a big deal. I'm excited. It's good. But it was just funny to see Stout like that.
Yeah, Stout has like one persona, and he never departs from it.
Pretty cool, though, for Lane.
Yeah.
In the speech that Kelsey gave to him, he talked about, a lot of times this is an award that goes to someone who gave a lot of money, which is great. But Lane has kind of put his story out there about mental health, and it's been cool to see him share that over the last few years.
There's a lot of value in that, and I know he's helped a lot of people. I think when people who are struggling with their mental health see this monstrous, he looks indestructible as physically, and he's an all-pro and he's wealthy, and they see a guy like that struggling with mental health, and it kind of normalizes a little bit. And I think a lot of people would be more inclined to get help when they see someone like Lane, a celebrity, a star, go public with their story. So there's tremendous value in that.
Yeah, it's been cool to see him bounce back the way he has the last few years. And part of the award is you have to be a good player. And
right.
He's been fantastic.
I'm really starting to think he's got a shot at the Hall of Fame.
I do too. It's clear how much he's respected by players now. I think it took a long time for him to earn that respect.
Yeah, because of the suspensions.
I think suspensions, and I think the stigma about playing right tackle early in his career.
Yeah.
But now that's, so many great rushers rush on that side, and we've seen him shut down. Talk about the Eagles gauntlet in the schedule. He's had gauntlets before where it's every week is a premier edge rusher. So, he's 33 now, but he's still playing at such a high level. You worry about injuries because he has had a bunch in his career.
Yeah.
But when he's on the field, he's still great.
How many All-Pros does he have? Just 2, 17 and 22. There's been other years. I mean, he could have been 4 Pro Bowls. If he can, I know I'm voting for him for All-Pro.
Yeah, it is a shame because it's with offensive linemen, there aren't stats to go off of. So a lot of times it comes down to honors, which
Yeah. Kelsey didn't make a Pro Bowl till his 5th year.
Yeah. I'm interested. So the NFLPA last year started doing their own All-Pro team voted on by players. And I believe it's players on the other side of the football around the league. And last year was the first year they did it. But I'm curious that if by the time Lane Johnson is eligible for the Hall of Fame, if something like that will matter, because it is a good idea. And I think it's a way for players to get involved in that process a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually take the voting seriously. As much as I respect the work the NFL top 100 list people do to get those questionnaires out there and they put in so much work. I don't know if players always take that as seriously. And it's they're voting for if you're a receiver, you don't know what an offensive tackle in the league is doing. But if you're talking a receiver knows which cornerbacks they don't want to face.
Yeah, I've been around some players when they've been filling that out, and they're like, hey, who's that guy? Who's that cornerback with the Niners? What's his – yeah, they don't know. But that's how Pro Bowl voting is guys on the opposite side of the ball in the same conference. That's
Speaking of Pro Bowl voting, we saw the first they send out the fan voting in spurts.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, 2 Eagles are leading their positions respectively in the NFC. Can you guess who they are?
So it's by conferences, right?
By conference, yeah.
I would say
one on offense and one on defense.
Kelsey?
Kelsey is the offense.
One on defense. Eli Ricks. Is it Hassan?
It's not Hassan. And I will say it's very weird how this is all split up.
How do you mean?
The way they split up the positions. Like it's one, like on offense, like one tackle, whereas on defense, they split it up a little bit more. So, yeah, it's going to take you a while to guess, I think.
Yeah, I have no idea.
At strong safety, Reed Blankenship.
Really?
Yeah. Which is kind of strange to split it up in 2023.
So many.
Free and strong safety.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's leading the fan voting.
I mean, I think he's had a really good year. He's like, I think you kind of see how inconsistent the other D-backs are just because he's so consistent.
Yeah, but I also don't think he's a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I mean, was he have 2 picks? I mean, that's going to be, but yeah, I don't either.
Isn't that surprising to see him leading the voting?
That's very surprising.
Yeah. It's but it's kind of like a weird thing. Like, I don't know why they're breaking it up like that.
Like, I mean, he's an undrafted guy. I mean, he's never started a full season before. 4 starts last year. That does surprise me.
Who do you think, this is off topic, I'm sorry, but which Eagles do you think are likely to be Pro Bowlers?
Well, I think Kelsey and Lane, AJ, Jalen will go. Or go. I don't know if he'll go, but he'll be one.
Landon was last year, I believe.
Yeah. He's
one player we have not talked or thought about all year, which is probably a good sign for him.
Yeah, I think he's been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, possibly he could, I don't even know how you vote for guards. But I mean, I think he's certainly in the mix. Defensively, Reddick and Reed. I'm probably just Reddick.
Yeah. Slade might make it.
He might make it on reputation.
Yeah. Special teams, it's funny, the Cowboys kicker is leading the voting. He hasn't missed a kick, but Jake Elliott should be a Pro Bowler.
Yeah. He's only been to 1, or is that right, Jake?
Oh, I don't know that.
He made 1 Pro Bowl.
I think you're right.
He's so good.
Yeah, he's been nails. Maybe like a Britton Covey will sneak in there.
2021, he made his only Pro Bowl, made 91% of his kicks. He's 21 for 23 this year. I know one of his misses was 54.
The other one was shorter.
Yeah.
He's 6 for 7 from 50 plus, right?
I know he's got more than 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure anybody else on defense, which is kind of says a lot about their defense right now.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Carter's numbers have tapered off.
Yeah. And that, and his, I mean, he was a huge topic around the league the first half of the season. So I don't know if he's probably on the outside looking in right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I had on that.
Yeah.
That was off topic, but.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
There's always that one guy that surprises you who made like, wow, he made it.
Oh, like which Eagle would surprise you?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about that. I mean, like, would it shock you if like Fletcher made it on Reputation if there's not?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about like a specialist? They're out, dude, like the best record in the NFC. So maybe like a Josh Jobe.
Interesting. He's played at a Pro Bowl level.
He's been really good.
He's been really good. Yeah, I agree.
He's been their best like specialist.
Wouldn't that be
like
something
special teamer, not specialist?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been great in that role.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts' rushing numbers. You wrote about this. His rushing numbers are down this year. Touchdowns are still where they've always been, but the rest of the rushing numbers are down. What do they look like, and why do you think it is?
Yeah, it's he was 19th in NFL history after the 21 season at 5.4 yards, something like that per carry. Then he was down to 4.6 last year, which is still pretty good. And I took kneel downs out.
Okay.
And figured out everything without them. He's at 3.6 this year, and he's like near the bottom of among rushers. And the weird thing is his first downs are up, so he's converting. It's not just the keepers or the tush push or whatever, but he's second in the league in first downs rushing behind McCaffrey. He's got 50 of them. So the only thing that's really changed is the long runs. So like his first 2 years, and even his rookie year, just in 4 games, he was averaging a 10-yard run like every 5th carry. Mm-hmm. This year he's averaging one like every he's got like 11 and 100, like every 11 carries. So like, and 20-yard runs, he only has 1 this year. He had like 24 his first 3 years. So it seems like he's just as effective, like converting third downs. And so you think, well, why is that? Why are the big runs not there? I think teams are probably, I think he's probably injuries have affected him a little. I think.
Play Marcus Mariota is what you're saying.
He had David Carr and me. But I also think he's being more careful. So like if he moves the chains, you don't see him kind of looking for those next 8 yards, sometimes depending on the situation. But I think he's being smarter. I think defenses are probably have more of a book on him now, understand his tendencies better when he does run. But he also, like, he had that 12-yard touchdown in overtime. He had a 24-yard run earlier this year. So I think he's still capable of it. I think some of it is, I don't say by choice, but I think some of it is a product of just being smarter. And I mean, his rushing attempts per game are about the same as like 9.7 per game. So it's not like he's running less. I think he's being smarter, being more careful. And maybe after the ankle in 2021 and the knee this year, he's just not as fast.
Mm-hmm.
It happens.
Could be true.
Yeah. And I also think a lot of times he's throwing when 2 years ago he would have been running. So maybe he has a 7-yard run here, but if he sees Devontae for 20 yards, he's throwing it. Where I think early in his career he wouldn't, and that would help his rushing stats.
Interesting.
So those are my theories.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is like the way defenses are playing.
I do too.
Him and the Eagles now too. It's like a lot more zone, so there are eyes on him. They're not giving him man where he used to they'd be in man coverage, he'd just take off.
Yeah.
Justin Evans, I just want to mention this real quick. Staying on IR, is not coming back. A little disappointing because they don't really have any depth at safety. They have 3 safeties on the roster.
Yeah.
And they all play.
Yeah. So
I thought he'd be a nice guy to have back, but it's not happening.
Weird season for Justin Evans. Began the year as just, okay, they signed Justin Evans. He'll help out on special teams or something. Then the last 3 days of training camp, he comes out of nowhere and becomes a starter, or at least starts taking reps with the ones. I kind of jumped the gun and wrote, it looks like Justin Evans will be a starter, and I lucked out on that one. But he was, and he started, 4 games, got hurt, or 3 games, got hurt, came back, started 1 game, and got hurt. But it's been his career. He's just been hurt. And
it's a shame.
Yeah. I don't think he's a bad player, but he's also small, and he plays incredibly physical. And I just don't know how he would ever stay healthy, honestly.
Yeah. I went back and looked at all those 1-year deals.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Eagles didn't have a lot of money to play with in free agency, so much of it was geared toward keeping their own players. And they bought a bunch of lottery tickets, and they're not going to hit.
No. The good part of that is you can get out of there's no contract to get out of. There's no dead money.
You're already out of a lot of them. I mean, 5 of the 10 1-year deals they signed between the start of free agency and the start of training camp are already gone.
Interesting. But I think at a couple of positions, they've kind of neglected drafting, and Nakobe kind of losing him is part of the equation. But I think they got some work to do and I wrote about that this week, to kind of rebuild linebacker and safety with young talent, so they're not in a position where they have to sign those type of guys.
All right.
And even last year they signed a bunch of them and they did better, but they were still then they're gone. So yeah.
Big game on Sunday. Sunday Night Football in Dallas.
You can ask me my pick?
I'm going to ask you which way you're leaning.
Honestly, I'm leaning Cowboys.
Okay. I think that's fair.
The Cowboys are 0-2 against winning teams this year. Eagles are 3-1. They were 5-0, and then the Bills and Vikings both lost a game and got to 6-6. So that's a little deceiving, or not an ideal way to work it out. But I just don't trust this defense against Dak and CD and all those guys. They run the ball pretty well. you know, I still think the Eagles, I still think they have a shot at the number 1 seed if they do lose, but obviously their cushion's totally gone.
Yeah, I mean, it would be tougher. They still would control their destiny to win the division,
right?
But they would not to win the number 1 seed.
No, it might come down to the Ravens beating the Niners in Santa Clara in a couple of weeks, which could happen.
Sure.
That could determine who the number 1 seed is.
Believe it or not, I'm actually leaning toward the Eagles in this game.
I believe it. You can certainly make a case for it.
I trust Jalen and Nick, and they don't lose back-to-back games.
Right. They haven't in 2 years.
They just don't. And I think having Dallas Goedert back will help. I think having Zach Cunningham back will help. I know everyone's thinking about Shaq Leonard.
Yeah.
If they have Zach Cunningham back, that's a big deal.
Sure.
It won't be easy having Reuben in this game against CD. I think will help. I think it's gonna be a close game though. I don't think either. I don't expect a blowout either way. I think it's gonna be tight.
I didn't expect one last week.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I do think if you had to say like which one of these teams is more likely to win in a blowout, it'd be the home team.
Probably, yeah. And again, I don't think we mentioned they've won 14 in a row at home by an average of 18 points.
Might not have their head coach. Appendicitis.
Oh, really?
Oh, you didn't hear that? Yeah.
No.
Appendicitis, had surgery. He's hoping the coach, but yeah, you don't know.
Oh, that helps Dallas. No, that's not fair because, I mean, the guy just keeps winning. Yeah. The Eagles have lost 5 straight in North Texas. The Eagles' last 4 road losses by 20 points or more were all in that stadium.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been tough for the Eagles there. So they certainly need this one.
Great mac and cheese though in that press box.
I miss being in that. I love that stadium. What do you think of that place?
Feels like a shopping mall to me.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
There's no stores though.
But it feels like a shopping mall. And maybe that's because I'm always there in December and they have like Christmas decorations up, but it feels like a shopping mall to me. It's nice though. If you haven't been there, it's like it's worth going. If you're a fan and you're going down for the game, like it is cool to see.
It really is.
It's a spectacle.
Yeah.
And you'd expect nothing less
from
Jerry Jones. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that like button and subscribe there as well. I almost combusted. That's it. You got any final words, Rube?
No, have a safe trip to North Texas and see you after the game.
Well, stay warm, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.